Welcome to Tao Living, the Art of Living podcast with your host, Lou Corletto, where you will be supported to remember that you are the driver and not the vehicle, so that you can walk your life in trust. Why this topic? Before I started my journey into the world of health and healing, and if somebody said to me, hey, there's a class on breathing, I'd be like, and why would I go to that? Watch. I'm breathing. Like, why would I need to do that? And I still run into people who think that way. There is a process that we all go through as humans that we are, as long as we have a life force running through the body, that breath is happening. It's called an involuntary process. That's a biological breath. That's not conscious breathing. People who, which unfortunately it's most people, who live their life in strictly a biological unconscious breath are in existence. Doesn't make it wrong, but they don't realize there's a whole nother world to tap into. We have the capacity as humans to also volitionally or through intentional will to become active participants in our breath. Most people just don't do it because they don't even know, as I didn't decades ago. But since I have, a whole new world has completely opened up. And there's many cultures around the planet who still have this, well, at least the indigenous people have that deeply involved. So for instance, if you look at the Polynesians, like Hawaii, ha is the word for breath. They've named their island chain after breath. Aloha means welcome breath. The Polynesians came up with another word. I'm sure I'm not enunciating it correctly, but it's haole, I believe, or something close to that in the enunciation, which was when they watched the foreigners show up to their Polynesian islands, they called them the haole, which was without breath. Because if you've ever watched the Polynesians, the indigenous, when they meet and greet, they touch foreheads and breathe with their nostrils connected because it's a way to intimately meet and greet each other. They're exchanging life force, breath, not oxygen, breath. Right? There's a different aspect of breath. Remember that. And any of the scriptures, they don't call it the breath of oxygen. They call it the breath of life. When we breathe in, yes, we take in oxygen, really important. And when we exhale carbon dioxide, CO2. But there's another thing called prana, which Lydia will dive into deeply in a second. Pranayama, the control of life force. Yeah. So let's start off with some basics, right? Basics in the sense of anatomy and physiology. What is the breathing muscle, right? People know about the heart that pumps blood, but what generates this breath? And I will screen share, hopefully. Is that up on the screen? Lydia, if you can give me a head nod or, yeah, cool. Right, so really a side view of a person, right? So standing this way, the diaphragm is your breathing muscle. The diaphragm is a Greek word, means to separate. What it's separating is, I'm not sure if does my cursor show up there, Lee, the pink cursor? So it separates your torso, which is your chest, right? So hips up to neck. Separates that in half. The upper half, vital organs, lungs, heart, vital aorta, blood vessels. And below that, your digestives, intestine, spleen, liver, all that yummy stuff. So your diaphragm literally goes around, and I'll show you a video in a second, 360 around your body, separates. When we breathe in, again, before I started studying the body 35, 40 years ago, I thought when I breathed in, my diaphragm went up. And when I exhaled, it went down. It just made sense in my brain logically. And that's not what happens. It's the other way around. It acts as a piston. So when we breathe in, normally it sits in this shape as a dome. If you're not breathing, it sits like this. When you inhale, it contracts and goes down. So think of a syringe or a piston. So it's sucking air in. It's an active process. The exhale is a releasing of that. Diaphragm pops up, air is expelled out. The reason you hear the term belly breathing, we're not really breathing with our belly. When your belly goes out, your diaphragm is coming down. So if your belly never goes out, your diaphragm can't come down. Think about women in their third trimester. They have a rough time breathing because there's something in the way of the diaphragm moving down. A baby. Right? So, but if women get in all fours during that trimester, the baby hangs, diaphragm has a place to come down. It's a really good feeling for them. So just being aware of that, so the diaphragm attaches to the spine, it attaches to parts of the ribs. You'll see in a second all what I'm talking about. And so the basics, let's see if I have a couple of those. I have to move my people's screen out of the way here. Yeah, so another image here, diaphragm flat, lungs expand, belly goes out, belly comes in on exhale, diaphragm goes up. So you can see the arc now versus the flat. But what you're seeing on the screen, that is actually for lack of a better term, an x-ray of the lung. So this is the bronchi, which splits like these roots, bronchi, bronchioli into little air sacs called alveoli, where the gas exchange occurs, like you care at the moment. What this is, a tree. Check out the visual appearance, right? So the really cool part is, again, Lydia will dive into this, so I might be stealing some of her thunder. Trees respire just like we do. But the cool part is it's in reverse. When we exhale CO2. When we inhale, we bring in O2. Trees, plants bring in O2 and exhale O2. So it's essential that we live in symbiosis because we're serving each other in that capacity, right? So there's an innate relationship, hence being in nature. What you're seeing on the right, 5-week-old fetus, human. On the left, 5-week-old dolphin. Ha. Ha. Dolphins are mammals. So are we. Look at the similarities. And people say, why do people like to go swim with dolphin? Well, there's a whole lot of reasons. Some of you know that Lydia and I facilitate retreats, engage in a week-long process, diving with wild dolphins. But one of the main reasons we work with cetaceans, outside of being sentient beings who've been around growing and evolving longer than we have, they're conscious breathers, meaning, as I mentioned a little while ago, they don't have the ability to go involuntary or unconscious. They have to literally choose every breath they take. Everyone. If they don't go, like, choose to inhale, they die. Most humans don't ever think about a breath, yet they're still being biologically breathed, if you will. So world of difference and why we play with them. We'll bring in some other wisdom here in just a second as well. Okay, so you've already seen that stuff. You get the basics, right? So we have nose and mouth. You can do both. The best is through the nose. So think nose for breathing, mouth for eating. So breathing in the nose, there's a whole nother reason that is benefit for that. We actually pick up a nitric oxide, not nitrous oxide, which increases oxygen absorption into the blood cells by 10 to 20%. If you breathe through your mouth, you don't get that extra factor. So breathing through the nose is huge. It also warms the air. There's a lot of factors, and pull off whatever anyways, it's a great book. Yeah, I'll wait till I can show that better. It's called Breath by James Nestor. And they put him through a process where they blocked his nose for 3 weeks. It was a major university study in one of the big med schools. They tested his blood profiles, his gases, and showed how much it was detrimental to his system just by mouth breathing for 3 weeks. And when he learned to breathe through his nose, not learned, he knew, when he then continued to breathe through his nose, the change in his blood chemistry, the change in his liver profile, the change in his physiology, again, all massively measured physiologically at the highest levels. Simply the power and the difference between breathing through your nose and breathing through your mouth. Yeah. Now, one of the things, let's see, I just want to get through some of these screens here. That might have been it on that one. Cool. So you might have heard this statement from Bruce Lee in the world of martial arts. He said, I am not afraid of a man or woman who's learned 10,000 kicks. Not a bit. But I'm really afraid of one person who's learned and practiced one kick 10,000 times. The reason I bring that up is we're going to share with you different versions of breathing. But if you just pick one and really work that one, and right now, the most simplest basic is to go back into diaphragmatic breathing. Look at a baby, an untraumatized baby, breathe perfectly. The only thing that moves on their bottom on their body is their belly. So if they're laying in the crib, you'll see their belly just goes up and down. The chest doesn't move, up and down. It's a perfect breath. People over time, we humans get stressed out, we stop belly breathing and we start chest breathing. Chest breathing is inefficient because we're not getting the gas exchange down to the lower lobes of the lung have the most gas exchange area. When we don't belly breathe, we don't get there. We breathe in the upper part of our lungs, which is really inefficient. Also, because we talk about belly breathing, people think breathing forward. We've got to learn to breathe volumetrically, if you will, meaning all around. The majority of your lung field is in the back of your body. So it's really impressive when you watch somebody who has massive control over their body through breathing. They can literally breathe through one side, like one part of the abdomen opens and controls, the other does. And you can breathe just in the back versus just in the front. It requires some time, but we can all do it. We all have that capacity. So let me show you just a couple videos to make this point about breathing. So ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is something called like a fluoroscope. Basically, it's a moving x-ray. So this is recorded, it's a recording, but of live. This is an alligator. What you're seeing at the top here, that's the spine of the alligator. This is the clear parts of the lung field. So this is the diaphragm area, and this is their organs. Watch the depth and breadth of how much this diaphragm moves, how much the lungs open and expand when they inhale, and how much it closes when they exhale. Ready? And here we go. That's exhale. Lungs are getting smaller. That white space, or yeah, the white space is clear. Inhale. Diaphragm's going down, spine's going up. Air's coming in, lungs are filling up. Exhale. Diaphragm goes up. Look how small the lungs get. Look how big the lungs get. Yep, that's an alligator. So the cool part about that is alligators, like a lot of animals, they don't get into this stuff, right? They don't have all of the human emotional attachments that somebody laughed at them because they didn't yawn properly, or I didn't swim across the pond and the other alligators picked on me, right? So they're not carrying all the emotional, psychological garbage. They just be alligatory, and they breathe. Full on out, breathe, right? And you saw in that motion. So again, Liddy's gonna, when I quit yapping, she's gonna take you into movement and awareness of this whole structure too, because we think, well, breathing is just my lungs. If your chest doesn't open, meaning the ribs expand and have flexibility and the tissues between the ribs expand, if your spine is stuck, right? There's so many factors. If these things don't move, you can't breathe well. If you don't breathe well, you're not bringing in life. Think about it. What's the first thing that all humans do when we show up on the planet? First breath, because if you don't take it, guess what? You didn't make it. You didn't get to enter the earth plane. What is the last thing every human does before we leave this earth plane? Doesn't matter who you are, what kind of money you have, what color your skin is, what part of the planet you live on. Doesn't matter. We all exhale. We exhale and exit. Whew, game's over. Shows up. That's how we leave the body. So if you don't think breath is important, just stop it for about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll quit yapping. So Miss Liddy, please. So Lee, I'm going to show the other video clip of the diaphragm adding the organs and the parts so they can see, and then we'll be done with anatomy and physiology. Because it's like, look, are you like angry and frustrated? Yes, but you're not dealing with it. You're just holding on to it, and that builds inside and it implodes. Think about a teapot on a kettle on a stove. Without a purge valve, boom, teapot explodes. If we don't purge, build up energy, we implode it. Something's got to give. An organ, a body part, a spine, a disc, a liver, a spleen, a blood vessel, something's got to blow because we're not processing, right? So in neurophysiology, and now it's big in neuropsychology, they've looked at this process of when we experience an unpleasant feeling. So a good friend of mine wrote a beautiful book called 90 Seconds to a Life You Love. I don't know if that shows better there or not. And the whole part of the 90 seconds is to the neurophysiology. When we experience an unpleasant feeling, grief, anger, sadness, whatever that may be down that whole, we don't like the body sensation associated with it, so we check out. If we learn to stay present during these uncomfortable feelings, We can stay in the moment and process whatever's in our face, whatever life has brought us, whatever we brought ourselves, and actually have a better opportunity to integrate it and grow right then and there. Not stuff it, move on, and have come back and cycle and beat us up later. Yeah, you follow me? Does that make sense? One of the most powerful ways to stay present, breathe, right? So life shows up. Oh no, what we normally do is stop breathing. Train yourself. Here comes life. Woo! It allows me to stay right here, right now. And then take another one, right? Woo! And it's okay to make sounds. Let yourself express yourself, right? Woo! Or whatever wants to come out of that sound. Oh, poop. Doesn't matter. Let something out, because even that oscillation is vibrating your cells. Like, oh, that's helpful. It literally vibrates in the body and helps things that we've stored break loose and start to move. Remember, energy, emotion, energy in motion. When we put them in motion. So if I'm angrying, that's healthy. If I hold anger, that's not healthy, right? World of difference. And breath helps us, one, move them in the moment, but it also helps us to unlock old stuffed emotions that we stored in the body, reactivate them, and move them through our system. So that's another way that we can use it for healing. So you've heard, the big catchphrase for the last decade or so is PTSD. I'm not a big fan of all the labels, conditions that the establishments put on people, whatever they are, especially the health conditions. So PTS, yes, 100%. Post-traumatic stress disorder, not a fan of that, because it's like some kind of condition. It's not a condition. It means you've had your ass handed to you, my interpretation. You've had your ass handed to you. Think of somebody in the military, they've just watched their friend walk across a landmine, boom, blown up, and now they have body parts on them. That's a little challenging. A violent crime you've experienced, that's challenging. The loss of a loved one, that's challenging. Post, after, traumatic, trauma, stress, PTS. Yeah, it's called Welcome to the Planet. Hence, part of this class is this gift to you all, which is how can I integrate when life happens to me? Be with it. Feel it. Don't be afraid of your feelings. And breath allows us to stay present in the feelings. Get back to your breath. It'll keep you present and now. Most, as I mentioned in the beginning, most humans don't use the volition or conscious breath. So we stay in the involuntary breath, which allows us to go with the mind most of our life, past or future, past or future. We don't stay here now. Breath brings us here now. Yeah. Huge. So remember, the way you breathe informs every cell in your body of your state of being. So if I breathe shallow and stressed, it activates what we call our autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic, which you've heard, the fight or flight. That keeps me stressed out, fight or flight. I'm now informing my body I'm not safe on a regular basis. And wonder why I end up having challenges, health. My mind starts getting stressed out. I don't sleep well because I'm informing myself I'm not safe. Learning how to change that, to tap into what's called your parasympathetic system and slow everything down by breathing deeper, right? That is a simple game changer. That is the one I tell you, we're going to show you a bunch, but if you just pick this one that I'm going to share with you right now, that one technique is the biggest foundation and game changer. And then we can play with more. Cool? Fair enough?
Thank you for tuning in to the Tao Living Podcast, The Art of Living, to support you in your continued journey of conscious breathing, the skill that will radically enhance your life, your health, your well-being, everything across the border. I am offering for a limited time only a 50% discount off of my conscious breathing crash course. Click the link below and grab your access to this life-changing course while this opportunity is available. Abundant blessings.